Hello there! My name is Tanner, and I'd like to welcome you back to my YouTube channel. Okay, so I've got to be quiet while I record this because right now, as I'm filming this, my dad is currently taking a nap in the living room. Anyway, this week's video will be a continuation of the story of Thor's wedding, one of my favorite Norse myths. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, linked up in the cards and in the description down below, I recommend watching that before you watch this one. It's okay. I'll wait. Oh, you're back? Perfect. So without further ado, here is part 2 of the story of Thor's wedding. Loki called together a meeting for all the gods of Asgard. As usual, Odin the Allfather sat at the head of the table, his wolves Freki and Geri sitting on either side, and his ravens Hugin and Munin perched on either shoulder. "All right, everyone," Odin said, and everyone stopped talking to each other to listen. "Since Loki was the one to call this emergency meeting, I will now let him have the floor. Loki?" "Thank you, All-Father," Loki said, and stood from his chair. "Now I know that you're all probably thinking this meeting is just an excuse for me to make you look like fools. However, this is not the case. I do not wish to cause unnecessary panic, but Mjolnir has been stolen." At this, everyone started murmuring amongst themselves. "The good news is," Loki continued, and everyone stopped murmuring to listen, "I do know what happened to it." "You do?" Thor said excitedly. "Where is it?" "That's the bad news," Loki replied. "It was stolen by the giant lord Thrym." Everyone else gasped at that piece of information. "He told me he's buried it 8 miles below the surface of Jotunheim, where only he can access it." "Is there any way to get it back?" Odin asked. "For without the hammer, all of Asgard is without its main line of defense." "I am fully aware of that, Odin," Loki said. "There is a way to get it back. However, unfortunately, he wishes to trade the hammer in exchange for Freya's hand in marriage." Everyone looked nervously at Freya, because even though her beauty was known throughout the 9 worlds, one thing that was just as well known about Freya was her fearsome temper. As soon as she heard this proposal, that temper flared brightly. "What?" she bellowed, and the walls of the meeting hall shook. "You expect me to get married to this giant just like that?" Everyone backed away as her temper grew. "I will never consent to this marriage! Never, never, never!" Suddenly, a shaking hand rose, and everyone turned to see who it was. It was Heimdall, the watchman, one of the wisest of the gods. "I think there may be a way to get the hammer back without offering Freya." At this, everyone stopped to listen, and even Freya cooled down long enough to lend an ear. "The answer is very simple," Heimdall continued. "We know that, like most of his kind, Thrym is not the sharpest sword in the armory. I suggest that since it's Thor's hammer, we put Thor in a wedding gown and veil, thereby disguising him as Freya and send him in her stead. That way, Freya does not have to marry Thrym, and we can get Mjolnir back." Everyone else started murmuring their assent that, yes, this seemed like a good idea. Everyone, that is, except for Thor himself. Are you mad? I will not suffer the indignity of dressing myself in a bridal gown. Thor, Loki said, unfortunately, if you want to get Mjolnir back, you have no other choice. We have no other choice. So Thor begrudgingly agreed to the plan, and all the other gods set to work, putting together a disguise. Thor was dressed, rather uncomfortably, in a gown and veil, and, to really sell the disguise, was given Brisingamen to wear around his neck. Loki, again using his proficiency in shapeshifting, disguised himself as Thor's lady in waiting. Soon enough, they were riding in Thor's chariot to Jotunheim. They soon arrived in Thrym's hall, where they were greeted warmly, and Freya sat next to Thrym at the place of honor. Some of the more observant giants in the hall, precious few that they were, murmured to each other about how the bride looked much taller and more muscular than they had expected. Finally, the pre wedding feast was held, and oh, what a spread it was! Roasted ox, smoked salmon, barrels and barrels of fine mead, the works. As they ate, Thrym noticed that his blushing bride to be proceeded to eat 8 whole salmon, 1 whole roasted ox, and all of the cakes and pastries that were set out for the ladies. Not only that, she drank 3 whole barrels full of mead, which would have been enough alcohol to leave any of the other guests giggling and lying helpless on the floor. I have known all about Freya's beauty, Thrym said, somewhat suspicious, but I've never heard of her enormous appetite, or her talent of holding her alcohol. Well, Freya has just been so excited to marry you, my lord, Loki replied, thinking quickly, that she has not eaten a single crumb or had a single drop to drink for the past 8 days. Thrym was quite happy to hear this information. So happy, in fact, he decided to give his blushing bride a little peck on the cheek. As he lifted the veil to do so, he caught a glimpse of one of her eyes. The eye he saw was as red as a coal in a fire, and he immediately jumped back in shock. I have never seen eyes quite as fearsome as those, he said. Loki, again thinking quickly, responded, Well, my lord, my lady Freya has just been so excited to be your bride, she has not been able to sleep a wink these past 8 nights. Needless to say, Thrym was quite satisfied by this answer. He could not wait any longer, and he ordered his servants to bring him Mjolnir so that they could perform the ceremony right then and there. As soon as Mjolnir appeared, it seemed to sense its true master, and leapt immediately into the hand of the blushing bride. Thor held Mjolnir high in the air, and the inside of the hall buzzed with electricity. I am Thor, god of thunder, he bellowed, and this is my hammer! Quick as lightning, Thrym and all of his other guests were finished, and the wedding hall got a brand new paint job, if you know what I mean. Now that the hammer had returned to its true owner, Thor and Loki made their way back home to Asgard. Now, those two would have other adventures in the land of the giants, but those stories are for another time. And there we have it. That was the exciting conclusion of the story of Thor's wedding. If you like this video and you want more, please give this video a like and subscribe down below so you don't miss any new videos. Also, If you have any other ideas for any future videos, please leave your thoughts in the comments down below, and who knows, it might just happen. Alright, well, that's all the time I have for this video, so I will see you all actually later this week with a St. Patrick's Day special for you. See you guys then.